So excited to have Mr. Corduroy Brown from West Virginia here to come hang out with us. Everybody in the chat, give a big Americana Addicts to Mr. Corduroy Brown himself. Man, so
Hey,
glad
y'all.
to have you on the channel, man. What's
So
going
glad to
on?
be here. We are chilling in West Virginia, Huntington, West Virginia, to be exact, and talking to y'all. It was a cool intro there. I think it's cool that as men, we do have a lot of growing to do. We have a lot of listening to do, and I think we can definitely make a difference in a lot of the ways that you guys have mentioned. That's awesome.
We've been dealing with some stuff in our community, and it's been a hard time, especially for some that have dealt with some really tough stuff. Then it's also been a hard time for us men to learn how to listen, to learn how to not immediately become defensive or argumentative. And I think it's been a tough process for us, but also a really rewarding process. We can get into that later, man. But dude, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us. We've checked out your music, and what I love about your music is you have like a rock and such a good vibe to your music, but you're also talking about big boy and big girl stuff, in which we want to get straight into hearing all about that. But why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself? Your story is so powerful with what happened to you with your health recently. I just want you to just give us the little spiel on who you are and what you got going on these days.
Absolutely, yeah, man. So I've been playing music since 2008. Again, I'm from Huntington, West Virginia, and hey, chat. I'm actually Strawberry Duck on Twitch. But if you want to look me up, look up Corduroy Brown. If you don't know how to spell corduroy, it's Roy Brown, and you'll never forget it if you think of that. But look up Corduroy Brown when you can. I like to describe the music that we make as like you're going to dance to it, you're going to have a good time, but you also might cry a little bit while you're dancing. So there's a lot of serious topics, but there's a lot of hope in the music, and that's something I've been really grateful to be on this side of the fence on. Back in February, I literally died. I literally was on life support before I got put on, like resuscitated and put on life support. I literally died earlier this year and was brought back, and now I'm in complete health. And it's just the craziest thing. Thanks to COVID, I literally died on a helicopter ride and came back to life, and now I'm talking to you guys.
Like diehard level helicopter stuff, man. That's amazing. Like to be able to tell people that you died on a helicopter, like that's kind of a good way to go out for real, but that's a pretty awesome story in general. So you caught the Rona and then you got real bad, huh? And
so I had COVID in January. And then a month later, after I had been fine, COVID to me was just like a cold. It wasn't anything bad. A month later, I go to the hospital after a couple things. And I was like, my lymph node was swollen and my lungs were kind of hurting, my kidneys, and I was throwing up. And they sent me home the first day. The hospital did. And they were like, we don't know. And then I went back less than 12 hours later and said, guys, something's not right. A couple days later, I haven't eaten yet, blah, 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 and I'm still throwing up and all these weird things, and they're testing for everything possible. And they said, hey, Mr. Brown, we have to put you on a ventilator. And I said, for what? Like, what's wrong? And they're like, we have no idea. So that's a call you have to make to your parents, to your friends. Hey, I'm getting put on a vent. I don't know what's going to happen. When I left Huntington, West Virginia in a helicopter on life flight, I was in heart failure, I was in lung failure, kidney failure, and liver failure all at the same time. And they had no idea what was going on. So I got put on, I literally died in a helicopter ride on the way to Morgantown, West Virginia. Like when I landed, I was gone. And it's what's wild is, you know, like the white light thing that people talk about when they see like, oh, don't go towards the light. Like that's a completely real thing. And I just remember waking up however many days later in Morgantown with a bunch of doctors looking at me, and I'm thinking I'm hooked up to every machine possible, and I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, well, you died, but welcome back. You're in Morgantown.
Wow. I want to get into this.
Yeah,
Let's talk
boy.
about that white light. I am like Agent Mulder here. I want to believe. I want to hear that story. Tell us all the details you want to about that story, man. Tell us about the
Okay, yeah, I'm an open book. So like the white light thing was very real, and I wish it lasted longer because I have so many questions. Like I remember being in like an infinitely white space, like as far as you could see all around you, just pure white. And I could see myself, but I wasn't touching the ground, which was weird. I've never levitated or floated before. Um, and there was like this little ball of energy almost is how the best way to explain it. And it started really close to my chest. It started like right here where my heart was. And then like I literally just slowly watched that little ball of whatever like go way away until like I just couldn't see it anymore. And that's the last thing I remember. And it was just the most bizarre thing because I have so many questions. Like, was I on my way to heaven or was I in purgatory? Was I like going the other way? I don't know. It was just I wish I could like I don't want to die again, but I wish I could go back and ask questions.
Yeah, don't be dying again, man.
No.
Ain't nobody
No.
want you dying again.
No, that album just came out, man. It's too early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was whenever they were like, we don't know what it is. How terrifying of a situation was that? Because I can't even imagine. First off, literally dying and them just being kind of like, but it could be some things. Like, how did that make you feel?
You kind of don't have time to think. Like you kind of everything when they started talking about the ventilator, everything started going fast. I mean, there was just like it was full speed, and I remember like because it's so hard to explain what it's like to not be able to breathe properly because I feel like my breaths before I put on vent were this big. I could inhale this much and I couldn't exhale. So I remember getting wheeled down there to the getting ready to be sedated to be put on a ventilator, and I mean I literally remember looking up and there's three people on each side of me, and I'm looking at this nurse and she's just looking at me with this like it was she was scared. You could tell, and that's like horrible in itself. But I remember fading in and out, and I don't know if I was dying at that point or how that worked, but I was fading in and out. I just remember seeing her face like faintly a couple times, and what it ended up being was this thing that like less than 30 people in America have had called MIS-A. So basically, my immune system freaked out whenever it got the antibodies from COVID. Because when I had COVID, it was like a month ago. So the antibodies freaked my immune system out, and it kind of put my heart in this state of shock. So like when my heart started failing, my lungs and every other organ started failing. But the only thing you can really do is like try to make sure you have a body in good enough shape to come back to. Like, so when I woke up, I was attached. I mean, there's these giant red tubes in my hips, and that was my blood being recirculated for me. So I was being kept alive by machines for how many days, but a 0 out of 10 experience, would not recommend.
Jeez. So
That is
wild, man.
that is a really good way to put it, man. Wow. So
There's a
you
Go
wake
ahead.
up, right? You wake up, you're in the hospital. You've been in a coma, right?
Yeah, I was sedated. I think like 2 or 3 days later, I was like I remember like vaguely seeing my dad. So I think I was back, but they didn't know what kind of shape my heart was going to be in or anything. Like I remember signing paperwork, and like apparently I don't remember. My dad said I called him crying, like saying that, hey, you might have to have a new heart because like we don't know what yours is about to do when we take you off this machine. And I was like, can we not? Like, it was bizarre, guys. And there's a lot of things that you learn on hospital beds when you're faced with your mortality. There's a lot of things that regret is the worst thing, and it's like the time that I spent being mad at somebody or mad or upset. Like I was so regretful that I wasted energy, like not using my life how it should have been used. I was so upset with myself that I didn't use the time that I had left, because suddenly the things I said I was going to do next week were there wasn't going to be a next week. And there's just a lot of different things you learn when you're faced with that.
So when you wake up, you know, are friends and family able to see you? How long is it before you're able to see like your loved ones, your closest people?
We were allowed one visitor in the room, so like the first few days I don't remember like hardly anything, but like my mom sent me pictures of me hooked up to these machines just lifeless, and that will chill you. That will chill you out bad. But it just you know, I had a bunch of, there were 17 nurses involved because I had so many different things going on, and literally 17. And you know, so one person like my family could come and visit, you know, per day, and that was it, really.
Man.
So, it's going to be always so difficult to talk about anything else that because everything else that we might want to talk about feels like compared to that experience must be so small, in which that gives such a great perspective, you know, because man, we stress so much about music or about so many things. So, as a musician and as a songwriter, how has that transformed the way that you view music, the way that you view a music career, maybe? What is that changed in how you look at this thing of creating music?
Yeah, I mean, it it brings urgency almost, because like what mattered most was like I've told this a lot, but what mattered most was like not what you had or the car, or the job, or whatever. It was like, did you like violently pursue the things that you love, and did you do things half-assed, and did you do like, did you provide love to yourself and to other people? Like, I have a couple like answers for that question. One of the craziest things that happened was there's a song on the album called "Better on the Ground," and I remember texting my friend Jeffrey when I kind of came to, and it was like kind of gibberish, but it was like a real panicky text. Like when he's the guy that recorded the album, and I had been asking him for like months, so like, dude, will you be on a song with me? Come on, man, because the album's full of features. And he was like, no, you know, I just like staying low key. And so I'm texting him all these things like, dude, we got to do better while we're here. We got to like stop picking fights with things that don't need our attention. We got to use the energy. And like, I'm not joking when I say this. I texted him this stuff he had already written like 3 days ago when I was dead. A song for me, mixed, mastered, everything, a whole full production song that had word for word what I texted him, like lyric wise. The words that I woke up from the dead to text Jeffrey, he had already written a song with those words. And I was just like, holy freaking hell, what is going on? Like, then on top of that, like we'd had the album almost done. And like Arlo McKinley, who you guys know, like me and Arlo are good friends, and he's on the album in a song called Secret War. He was texting our friend Josh and was like, put the song out now. We're going to put it on the label. We're going to do this. And everyone was like, hold on. Like, we think there's some good news. And like, you know, it makes like, there's so much like, I don't want to say selfishness, but like people don't want to share music and don't want to do things together. They don't want to share the wealth. But like my album is literally like, I want as many people touching this, and I want to experience this with so many people. So I think with the music and just life, like I just want to live. Like life is for living. What else is there to do? Like live.
What is that? Was the question rhetorical? What else is there to do?
Yeah.
I can't think of anything better. I haven't tried much else. You're the only one with experience in this area, dude. You got to
Um,
tell us.
so I'm interested to know. So obviously you're thinking like, all right, I've got this one life to live. I'm gonna make this record with that perspective. What were some specific things about how you made it? Obviously, you've talked about collaboration with people. What were some big priorities for you on this record? What were some like you almost died and you're like, I'm going to do this record the way I want to. What were some specific things that you decided were how you believe that you should make records, or what were the priorities for you?
One is collaboration. I wanted, like, the album is called Let Me Know. And the reason it's called Let Me Know is because so many people in my life have always said that to me and like genuinely meant it. And it's something that probably everyone in the chat has said to somebody. You guys have said it. Everyone has said the phrase "Let me know," but like, think about how genuine that is. I wanted so many people on the album. Like, my mom is on the album. Like, she calls us and leaves me and my brother's voicemails for our birthdays every year, and that's on the album. There's a part of the album that focuses. A lot of the album focuses mainly on mental health and like getting better and the struggles I've had with it in the past. And there's literally a part where you can hear the elevator of me going to therapy. And if you're from Huntington, West Virginia, it's a very specific elevator sound that's like a muffled, the guy says like elevator up, but it's like muffled, and you know exactly where that building is in Huntington, West Virginia. But just collaboration. And I wanted it to be real life. I wanted it to be like, I wanted those interludes of just, voicemails and me going to therapy and me just like, I wanted it to be transparent. I think that's the most important thing. Like, I wanted to believe every word I said in this album. I didn't want to leave any fluff anywhere.
Yeah, so me being a person so I'm 36, and today I just had my first ever therapy session. And
Ah,
man, how ridiculous is that? First off, I'm 36, and that's a whole different thing. But it's been funny on this channel because I've tried to reach out to therapists, and either they won't call me back or they won't email me back. And I finally got to go to a therapy session today. And man, I get it. There's two things that I learned from therapy today. One, I got a lot of shit I need to work on. Like, I started just saying all the things that I need to work on, and it was just like, I guess I hadn't talked about it, and I started listing it, and I was like, man, I'm messed up. Like, I've got to get some help. And two, like, and Chuck, you mentioned this the other day. I felt like I diagnosed kind of my own big issue that I'm having right now. And I left that place ready to roll. Like, I've been struggling recently. And so how important has therapy been to you? As a musician, I'd love to know how you feel like that has impacted you as a songwriter, because I'm very new to this, and just after one time, I feel like I plan on doing it for the long haul.
oh yeah. Therapy is powerful and beautiful. And it's like, one of the first things I started going to therapy in 2017, and I was living so horribly as far as like drinking all the time, and I self-harmed a lot. I used to cut my arms a lot, and that was a form of punishment that I would use on myself for whatever reason, but I didn't really know why. And like, therapy, like, everyone should go to therapy. Like, it doesn't mean you're crazy and anything like that. Like, therapy has helped me live and function and just exist in the right space. Like, I don't want to end my life anymore. And I feel like one of the things I learned more than anything, and it was came off that feeling that you kind of had, where you feel like you can run you can run 10 miles, you can take on an army when you leave therapy. It's so good. Like, I call my friends like every time. But like, when we have when you have mental illness of any kind, it starts with like a chemical imbalance, and then those chemicals affect your thoughts, and those thoughts affect your actions, and your thoughts and those actions affect, like, become habits basically. So like, if you can break that cycle, therapy can get you to start breaking and creating new good habits. Like, I never realized why I was cutting my wrist so much. I was doing that weekly at some point in my life. And my therapist was like, this is the only thing you can control when you feel out of control. This is your pressure relief valve. And I was just like, oh, my mind was blown. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, I can stop doing that now. And it just blew my mind. And therapy's so powerful and beautiful, man.
I am also a big believer in therapy. I've been going with a new therapist for a couple weeks. How else? You talked a little bit about self harm. How else specifically does it kind of manifest? Like, for example, when I get depressed, like, I can't do anything. The
Same.
spark to do anything, like,
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking like sometimes days without showering. It's a fight to brush my teeth. Um, Tell me a little bit about your experience.
Very similar to that. I just feel like an endless nothing almost in a way. But I've learned to give myself grace in that. And when I talk to people, because I love speaking about it, I love talking to people about this, and I love that you guys are talking about it on this show. It honestly means a lot. Hopefully, like, and people in the chat, like, comment if you guys, have experiences with therapy. Comment in the chat, like, if you guys go to therapy, if you try any medicine, I'd love to know. But I've learned to just give myself grace when I feel like I'm just going to be underwater for the day. I ride that wave and say, okay, well, right now I'm underwater, but there's going to be more waves. The waves never stop, good or bad. So, like, I've just learned to have mercy on myself and understand this is a chemical imbalance. This is chemical. It's not because I suck. It's not because I'm a shitty person. It's just chemicals, and just working every day to get that way.
I have often said, it's just like I've got a cold or like my back hurts, but it's not my back, it's my feelings. Like for no reason, my feelings are aching, you know. And man, the one that drives me crazy is when like people are like, "So what's up with you?" I'm like, I'm just kind of depressed." And they're like, "What are you depressed about?" I'm like, "No, that's sad. You're thinking of sad. I'm not sad. I'm depressed. It's a different state of
Mhm.
being. Sometimes it has a lot of sadness with it, but it's a little bit different. Do you feel like there's like times in your life where you can look back now and be like, oh, that was my mental illness acting up when that weird stuff happened or whatever?
By far, yeah. Chad dances. He goes to therapy weekly as well, which is awesome. Yeah, there's so many times where like I lived recklessly, and I mean recklessly by like even like just with alcohol and like not caring like what happened or like just I I don't know. I mean like there's so many times where now I'm looking back and being like, dude, I was just reckless. Like I for the first time since like last year, I can comfortably say this since last year. Like I've been living my life understanding that I have more to live instead of living it like, oh, I'm just gonna kill myself or die one day. It doesn't matter what I do. Like I'm making changes to like positively affect my future so that like I can live more instead of like looking at it as like I'm just gonna kill myself. It doesn't matter.
What do you have issues with like suicidal ideations or thoughts of suicide that like creep in, and how do you combat, or how have you historically, I know you have a very different perspective, but what's your philosophy on this? What's your game plan?
Mm, I mean, sometimes they sneak back in. I think that I've got it to a point where I realize how valued I am on the earth by not only just a lot of people around here, but just in my mind. Like, you know, I literally got as close to. I mean, I literally died. I mean, so I feel like God in that instance was like he called my bluff. And that's one of the lyrics to that song that Jeffrey wrote whenever I was out. I texted him as soon as I woke up and was like, dude, I think God just called my bluff. He's going to say, you really don't want to die. Let me show you. I'm going to take you this close. And I don't, I just feel like I have purpose again. And not just because of that, but just like, I don't know. I mean, all these things are going to sneak back in. It's kind of like a car that you drive for a long time. Like you got to get the oil changed, and occasionally you have to change the tires, and like there's going to be a blinker out, and like these things are going to pop back up. But you got to tackle them. You got to face them head on. You got to start like that's what therapy has helped me. It's like, okay, you realize this is a trend that you used to do all the time. Now here's how we tackle that. Let's go. Let's get to work. Don't sit in your apartment alone. Go out. Go to your parents' house. Go to your friend's house. There's a million people that would rather talk to you about your problems than see your funeral.
And
Yeah.
there's so many good comments in chat right now. Andrea says people are much more able to understand and give grace to others for physical issues, but not mental health issues. That's something that needs to change. Mindra says mental illness can affect your focus and your energy, just to name a few. So it can definitely require some time off for rest and self care, just like the flu. By the way, folks in the chat, like if you have any questions, we'll ask any questions that you might have
Yeah, fire up your question machine, folks.
as
We're
well.
glad to pass them on. I just like I read this in your interview, and it's in an interview somewhere, and it's one of my favorite things. I also believe everybody should be in therapy. Like, you don't have to have major disruptive issues. Everybody can benefit from therapy.
I believe it too. Hard. Like it's the most powerful thing you can do. I mean, I think it's kind of goes back to what you guys were saying like earlier too. Is like you have to check yourself. You have to reflect. You have like there's not a day that you ever should be the same person. Like every day is going to be growth. And like I forget whose quote it was, but they said like you can never step in the same river twice. It's always evolving and moving. Like it's okay to change. It's okay to grow. It's like we get to be on this earth one time, like technically twice for me now, but like one time generally. Like why are we not like running to be happy as we can? It's like that's what I want people to do is like if we knew that we were going to die at the end of this week, we would do everything we possibly could. And why are we not doing that right now? Why are we not grabbing life and saying, I'm going to change what needs to change?
Yeah, man, for sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Hey, what do you think about maybe playing a song for us?
Yeah, I'm down if you guys are down.
Yeah,
Come
man.
on now.
Let's do it.
All right.
It's my favorite part of the
So
interviews.
this song is called Leave It To Me. And like I said, I'm Corduroy Brown from Huntington, West Virginia. If you want to look up Corduroy Brown on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, we're getting ready to put out a music video. We put out a album in August, and this song is on it called Leave It To Me. Corduroy Brown, look it up. There might be some days that I don't think. Maybe some days I don't feel a thing. I'm probably out here with everyone, with my head up in the clouds, and me and mine to go without. And what if someday I'll have enough? Maybe someday I'll see it off. I'll still be out here in a drought. What if I never dodged a bullet that I swore would take me out? Just leave it to me to be in so close but out of reach. And leave it to me to find everything I thought I'd be. Now all intentions seem so bad. Each one I know is left unsaid. My suspicions would drive me mad, but like a map that has been traced, send it off to be erased. Just leave it to me, being so close but out of reach. Leave it to me, find everything I thought I'd be. Why can't I leave better off alone? Why can't I leave better off alone? I just might be better off alone. Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Nope. That one. There we go.
He
Laugh
always
track.
pushes the wrong buttons.
Laugh
man.
track.
Why I ever gave him the buttons is the dumbest thing of all time. Preach, man. I love that last little chord. You just get them at the end. Just
Mm-hmm. That's see you next Sunday chord. See you next Sunday.
I want to ask you a question about Chuck and I talk a little bit sometimes about pep talks that you have to give yourself, and it's something that I'm learning about. And I feel like I'm pretty good at it as a musician, And as a creative, like I've learned some good pep talks to give myself. But for example, like in therapy today, one thing I realized that I don't know that pep talk as a teacher. And there's so many things that I'm learning uh, that my issues are struggling with being a teacher and feeling bad about myself being a teacher and stuff like that. But what are some of your go-tos as a musician on the days that you're feeling down, things that you have to tell yourself to pep you up a little bit? Do you have any go-tos that you typically tell yourself?
I think so. I don't know that I do them like audibly or, I'm actually in a relationship right now with this girl who's like all about. It's interesting you bring it up because she's all about like positive reinforcement, positive self talk, and I've never really bought into it until recently. And it's like it's not like oh, I have to go do this. It's like, hey, I get to do this. Like I get to come and be on your guys' Twitch. Like I get to come do this. It's like it's not like, oh man, I have to go do this thing later. I have to go to work. Like I get to go to work. Like, and what are we gonna do about it? Like, are we just gonna let it slip by? Like, I don't know. I mean, I think that's more of an idea instead of like maybe a pep talk. But it's like when I start shifting those around instead of saying like, oh, I have to go do that. It's like, oh no, I get to do this later. Check this out. Like you should be excited about that.
Yeah, I'm the king of pep talks. I'm like awesome at giving myself pep talks and everybody else pep talks. It's great though because like when I give them to other people, they believe them, so they work so well. I've gotten to know myself too well though. Oh man, we're not even gonna get to ask questions out loud.
Yeah, I was just about to
My
say.
man's just like up in the chat.
Why don't you let us know?
Just wanna
Could you answer that from Chad? Why do you prefer a full band over playing by yourself?
There's so much energy that we put into our shows, and like if we're not sweaty by the end of it, we didn't do it right. Like it's performing is just what brings us to life more than anything, and I love doing the songs acoustic and chill when I can be. The stripped down stuff is cool. There's all kinds of little silly things we do acoustic sometimes, but full band, oh man, just the energy is what I love, and it's so fun playing with other people because we can bounce it all off each other, and it's just all those little like intimate moments that happen like like just between the band, like I don't know. There's just something more about full band, and I'm doing a lot of acoustic stuff to round out the year. I'm getting ready to play in Chicago, but like if I could have the band with me, they'd be there in a heartbeat.
Yeah, so I feel like we're kind of going through a renaissance of like country and Americana music where so many folks are just doing songs by themselves. So they'll do a song with another artist. And I'm personally a guy who's always preferred playing with a band, and I, I've never been that great at playing by myself. And so, how does it? Do you? Or what am I trying? I guess I'm putting my frustration off on you a little bit. Like, what? Uh, do you think full band stuff still has a place to play with emerging artists? Do you feel like that's something that you can only do once you have a following? Like, what do you plan on doing with the full band vibe?
Yeah, I mean, I want to do full band stuff as much as you can, but like I think it's different because like there's a marketing side to it too. So like people want to like see Corduroy Brown. So like, I don't know how to explain that. Like I think you have to be flexible. And I don't know how to answer that without sounding weird. I guess like you have to be flexible. Like I'd love to do as much full band stuff, but like generally bands are gonna say like if you're on a festival lineup, it's gonna just say Corduroy Brown. It's not gonna say like Corduroy Brown and the whatevers or the whatevers whatever. So like if it's up to me, I'm gonna have full band everywhere I go. But if it's something that requires acoustic, I'm just gonna do that. I mean,
Yeah, and it's such a fine. It's hard because like obviously we would always want to play with a band, but just with circumstances and with how difficult that can be, with how expensive it is to take a full band on the road or any of that kind of stuff. Um, So coming to Houston in 2022. Well, you got any tour plans coming up? What's going on with the concert stuff, man?
Yeah, right now the only thing that's lined up for the rest of the year, minus a couple like online things, is we're playing in Chicago this weekend. It's a place called Low Res Brewing, and then there's a couple things around Huntington that's like some Christmas events where I'm gonna like guests, like MC and guests, whatever. But we're trying to make 2022 wild. So like we've been lining up some festivals in Kentucky and West Virginia and some like Northern Ohio stuff. But I would love to come to Texas. I would love to come out. That's out west to me. So like maybe not quite out west, but I would love to come out to Texas and play. I've only been to San Antonio before, and I would love to see more of Texas.
Old LTD, the Texas Cyclone got a wreck for your band named Corduroy Brown and the Light Trippers. Just throwing it out there.
I'll give you royalties if it sticks.
Hey, so I got a few lightning round questions for you. Let me ask you this:
Okay.
What do you go by if somebody's just running into you? Do we say Corduroy? Do we call you Cord? What do we say when we're just calling you by your first namesies?
So my first name's Alan. So a lot of people come and they call me either Alan or AB because my name's Alan Brown. A lot of people call me AB, but it's weird because like a lot of people call me Corduroy now, and it's just like, oh, that's me. Whoops. I'm supposed to answer to that.
Same thing happens with me, man. It's so weird. My name is not. Oh, it's definitely Burt, right?
Well, I frequently am talking to Siri, and I'm like, call Burt Byler, and Siri's like, I don't have a phone number, only an email address.
Some folks are asking, do you have a management team contact info? Just in case we know venues who might book. Is that on your social media pages?
I am the sole manager at the moment. If I would love to get signed, that'd be wonderful.
That's what I'm talking about. DIY.
We DIY till we die,
stick it
man.
to the
Love
man.
it. Come on now.
I love it. I love it too. Yeah, the best way, I mean, social media, just look up Corduroy Brown. I do have a website too. It's still getting some kinks worked out, but we just now got it live, corduroy-brown.com. But either way, like if you guys, I would love to talk to you guys like outside of the show. Anyone in chat, like please follow Corduroy Brown on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. And that way, like I would love to like pick your guys' brains about like, hey, where's a good venue to play in Oklahoma or in Texas? So message me on Corduroy Brown's pages, and I would love to get with you guys and talk about where the heck to go so I can see you guys in 2022.
You guys heard it here first. If you slip into those DMs, old Corduroy Brown might come to your favorite watering hole.
Slide in my DMs, baby.
I usually don't advocate for DM sliding, but this seems like a worthy cause.
Seems like a cause.
And, okay, look, dudes, Benjamin says Pacific Northwest is where you got to hit. Dude, we have become a fan of the Pacific Northwest country music scene over here at this channel. So, yeah, definitely look into PNW for sure, man.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering what that meant because I was like, whoa, what is that?
I didn't know what that meant until we had multiple folks from that region in our Discord, and they kept just saying like PNW and PNX and like all of this stuff, and I'm like, man, I grew up in a small town in Mississippi. Like I don't know anything.
Yeah, and I also am frequently told that I should come up to the PNW, and my response is always that everybody knows I would never come back from there.
You got LaPage here repping the West Coast too. Well, man, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us. It's so refreshing to meet sweetheart dudes in the music industry, and you just seem to be such a good dude, man, and I only hope the best for you. There's anything that we can ever do to help, everybody, please go follow my man Corduroy in all of the places. You have a place here within our community where you are welcome anytime. And I hear we might have to play some Red Dead Redemption 2 one day.
Oh, yes. We will do some Red Dead.
Somebody needs to teach this fool how to ride a horse. I've been watching his Twitch streams, and this dude just, I mean, he's always, look, this man is always complaining about his wife's driving now that they're in the U.S. and that she can't adapt to the drive. And how? Oh, is this Spanish lady gonna kill me? How slow?
Look,
everything?
man.
Watch this man ride a horse on Red Dead and let him say
Let me
one
just-
more thing
so
to his
there's,
wife.
There's a reason. I got this new badass computer, and I was like, I've always been I've used a controller playing games, but I was like, man, I'm a PC gamer now. Like, I'm gonna use a keyboard and a mouse and all of this stuff. There you go. Oh, he's for real. And it was just a complete disaster. So I finally went and got like a $10 controller at Walmart the other night. But dude, let's play some Red Dead sometime, man. I'm all about it.
Or as Burt likes to call it, dead.
Yeah, just dying.
Dead.
I always die.
Whatever the word for horsey side is what you're committing constantly.
Oh man, but dude, again, thank you so much. If there's ever anything we can do for you, man, you got my contact. Reach out to me if you ever come anywhere near Mississippi in the Maricondo. Come hang out with us. Chuck, you got any final last words you want to say?
Man, your album sounds great. I would recommend it highly to everybody. It has a big sound, but it's very spacious. It leaves a lot of space. I love the vibe of it. I feel like the songwriting is very easy to get into and not difficult to decode. And it just seems like heartfelt music and heartfelt lyric writing. And I've been vibing it all day. And so, man, I just got a lot of respect for that album. I want to shout it out and let you know that I'm a big fan of that.
Thank you so much, man. And Americana people, Arlo McKinley is on the album, so give it a listen if you're into some Arlo McKinley. I know he was on your guys' show not too long ago, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
man.
Absolutely. All right, dude. We appreciate you coming on, man.
Dude, my pleasure, guys. Thank you all.
All right, buddy.
All right.
Have a great rest of your night. We'll see you soon, bud.
All right, guys. Thank you.
See you, man.